Good morning, good evening, good afternoon, greetings and salutations, and welcome to this edition of the Women of BSV. Today, myself and Ruth, and we are joined by Ty Everett of Project Babbage, and Ty is a blockchain entrepreneur and developer with a passion for building innovative solutions that empower users and disrupt the status quo. From his early work on the gateway payment processor and Rubik's wallet, to his contributions to the open source projects like BSV library, Ty has dedicated himself to advancing the capabilities of the Bitcoin SV network. And as the CEO of Project Babbage, Ty is leading the charge in developing new ways for users to monetize their data and actions while preserving their privacy and security. Now, through the creation of products like Authorite, NanoStore, Pocket Pay, and ChainTrax, Ty is working to build a decentralized peer-to-peer internet that truly puts users in control. Now, I did pinch this actually off Project Babbage website, which is Ty's founders page, but we're also joined by Michael Bay Fox. And Michael told me to tell you that he is actually a starving, talented artist. However, Michael is also a creative genius and a fledgling website designer. He's also a React developer, a musician, an organic farmer, a print artist, a digital artist, and he's extremely humble. And he has a beautiful little doggy who is somewhere around in the background there. So welcome to the Women of BSV, Ty, and welcome to the show, Michael. We are really happy and glad to see you, and I'm really glad that you came along because I've been following you for a while, Ty, and you were at a couple of the CoinGeek conferences doing some presentations there about Babbage. So, and there is a history to Babbage for people who don't know anything about computers. So do you want to explain why Babbage and, where this idea came from?
Yeah, so Charles Babbage is one of the, I would say, underappreciated figures in our history. About 200 years ago, he came up with this idea for mechanical computers. This is before, electronics were very widespread, before even the cities had been wired with electricity, before light bulbs and any of this. And so he had this idea that we could make a mechanical device that did calculations for us. So a little bit of computer history here. But in recognition of the initial conception of what a computer was as a mechanical device versus a human, because before Babbage there were human computers who would use slide rules and things like this to actually go and perform computation. Babbage had the idea that would eventually lead to the world that we now live in with computers everywhere. And so as the final form of computing that actually puts the user at the center and gives them all the power that computers have, I thought Project Babbage was a fitting name for the technology platform and the suite of tools and services that are going to enable this for the next generation of apps on the MetaNet.
So tell us a bit about how you got into BSV, Ty, just before you introduce the product itself.
Yeah, so BSV is one of the most fascinating things in the world, I think. I think we can all agree about that. It's technology, I'm trying to think from the technology perspective. I was introduced to blockchain in 2016, prior to the, all the splits and things that happened with Bitcoin and everything. And I just remember hearing that it was like this decentralized, anti-government thing that was completely anonymous and all this stuff. And ironically, it's not necessarily centralized. But aside from that, it's the opposite of what the public holds it to be, in the sense of all these things with anonymity and privacy and whatever else. People get those two things confused, anonymity and privacy. I heard about Bitcoin in 2016, and I then followed it, just kind of briefly. I briefly heard about it, read about it. And then around 2017, when the block wars were heating up with people deciding whether they wanted small blocks on Bitcoin or large blocks on Bitcoin, is really when I started to get involved. I created my first application. In fact, Bitcoin is what drove me to learn how to write code. I created my first application in 2018 as a demonstration of some of the new capabilities that were added to the predecessor to BSV, which was Bitcoin Cash at the time, as a social network. I tried to build a social network on top of it. What I found was that the technology wasn't ready for that you couldn't really build on Bitcoin yet. And so that's what drove me towards the creation of more and more systems and services that we need in order to actually use Bitcoin and benefit from all the potential that it really has.
Wonderful. Well, I mean, let's get to I knew I'd fluff that. Project Babbage.
You could just call it Babbage if that's easier.
I'm totally going to do that.
Yeah, Babbage is perfectly fine.
Yeah, the OG Babbage is not here anymore, so we just call this Babbage.
No, Babbage. So, because I feel very ill-equipped to even introduce this. So I really, really want you to talk us through it, Ty, because it's like a suite of tools, but even more than that. So where do you begin with it? What does it do?
It all starts with the MetaNet and the MetaNet client. So on the internet, we have internet, and then we have web browser. And you have a web browser that sits on your computer and allows you to interact with websites on the internet. And you can use different websites in your web browser, and you can even use different web browsers. Not all web browsers are run by the same company, and not all websites are run by the same company. And so it's a distributed network and a set of standards that we've agreed upon for this is how websites can exist, even though they're run by different companies, hosted in different places around the world. And this is how web browsers can exist. This is a way that people can access websites. The Bitcoin MetaNet, the thing that enables micropayments, digital privacy, identity ownership, it needs this same level of standardization. There needs to be standards for this is what it means when a person creates an app. This is the interface between the apps and the users. And this is software that runs on a user device like a web browser that facilitates the user owning their identity and protecting their privacy and interacting with the MetaNet using micropayments. So by facilitating these tools and by actually creating standards that allow these things to exist, we can provide a platform on top of which people can start to build on Bitcoin. And not just our MetaNet client, not just our users, but anybody who wants to interact, anybody that wants to create an application and deploy it on their own infrastructure, not just our infrastructure. Mm-hmm. We're going to provide services that make it easy, but we're also going to make the protocols open so that anybody can run these types of services and compete. And we're going to create a distributed network that doesn't rely on one platform being online. I mean, we consider things like Money Button and Handcash, which they are a step in the right direction. We have the ability to have users that have transactions and exchange value, but things like Money Button can go down. And when that happens, you lose access to the micropayment capabilities of Bitcoin that you use inside your application. And defining infrastructure in a way that doesn't require central platform operators at all, making it truly peer-to-peer, putting the software on end user devices so that users can interact and create transactions and exchange directly with any number of apps and services. That's the future, and that's really what the MetaNet is. Project Babbage just provides the tools and technologies and services that are going to make adopting this type of thing much, much easier.
So I noticed on your website as well, Ty, that there is a distributed identity white paper and a Babbage security white paper. And then we've got an executive summary here as well. But these are the two white papers that you specifically have attached to the website. So security and identity, these are the two things that are what you're specifically interested in. Yeah.
Right. They're not mutually exclusive either. I mean, you have identity on Google and Facebook, but it's not secure and it's also not yours. It's something that was given to you by the platform. And then you have security with platforms like Signal, but it's very difficult to actually have an identity on that platform and build reputation. So making these two things into a unified system that isn't actually sort of making these things into a unified system that isn't subject to the shortcomings of traditional centralized platforms is only possible when we have the incentives of Bitcoin SV and micropayments. And so our goal is to facilitate a secure system, which is what the security white paper talks about, making confidentiality, integrity, and availability key components of the architecture, and also facilitating distributed identity, allowing people to prove things about themselves as endorsed by certifiers trusted by the verifier of the information, and allowing applications to be deployed in an architecture that is not subject to single points of failure. These two things combine to create a platform that facilitates both identity and security in a distributed way, and allows a system to emerge that can replace the traditional centralized model of the internet with something better powered by BSV micropayments.
Now, for people that are a bit dubious about digital identity, what would you say to them?
I would say that, well, it depends on what criticisms they have, but I mean, certainly with login with Google on a website, for example, you have this idea that you can delegate the identity process to an identity provider in something like OAuth if you get technical about it. But really what this means is that Google is the one that provides the identity, not you. And if you want to own your identity, if you don't want to risk being deplatformed for saying something, which is perfectly legal for you to say, then you enter a position where you want something of your own. You want your own software. You want your own keys. You want to be able to sign something. You want to be able to share something. And you want distributed protocols that allow that information to be replicated across multiple hosts so that it's not subject to takedown by one party. And of course, if you do bad things, then the law is going to come after you and your content is going to be removed. But beyond that, people should have freedom. People should be able to speak. They should be able to say what they want to say, and they should not be subject to deplatforming for saying things that are compliant with the law. That is my view, and that's the architecture for the software that I've created.
So really the takeout from that is that you are actually going to be, with digital identity, you're going to be in control of your own identity. Somebody else isn't. It's actually getting your identity back from the big corporations like Facebook and Google. It's actually being able to just, claw that back so that you own it again.
Right, and break down the silos, the data silos, the identity silos, the network effect silos that these companies have created. Silos around the amount of people that subscribe to your YouTube channel. If you want to leave YouTube, great, but you lose your million subscribers because there's not an open protocol that is available for people to use that can allow them to stay connected to you even if they leave YouTube. I had an idea for Twitter when Elon took it over, and I actually tagged him in a tweet. He didn't respond. My idea was this: Elon, if you want Twitter to be better, here's what you need to do. Take all the Twitter handles and put them at twitter.com as email addresses, and then allow anybody from other domains to like and follow and reply, and build a distributed protocol so that you're not the end-all be-all of what content is exchanged on that platform. Unfortunately, he didn't listen, and Twitter, it's gotten a little bit better, so it is a step in the right direction. But creating a truly federated system is what is necessary if we want to allow people to interact. Email is decentralized because there are multiple service providers, multiple email clients, and no one person controls what can be in an email. And we need to move more in that direction. Email is a very old technology, but there's something in it that we can benefit from in our modern world.
Mhm.
And social media, TikTok, is definitely not decentralized. There is one platform. There is one company. That company makes the rules. If you don't like the rules, you have to leave. If you leave, you lose everything that you've worked for. And we need to move away from that. We need distributed identity systems. We need distributed protocols for data. And we need the incentives to make that possible. And the only system of incentives that I've found to make that possible involve the use of micropayments.
In fact, Craig Wright himself was talking about this all day today and yesterday. I don't know whether you got a chance to watch any of it.
There was for people who don't know, there was a 2-day masterclass that Craig delivered today, and it will be repeated once a month for 2 days every month. Good. And for the rest of the year. But yeah, he
was talking about identity and pushing it to the edge, such that it's not centrally stored and can be hacked.
Right.
And he's talking essentially exactly what you're developing. Yeah.
When identity is in the center, you have a crunchy shell model for security. What that means is that if you breach the giant vault in the center of the bank, then you steal all the treasure. But if the treasure is everywhere and everyone, it's much, much easier to rob even the most secure of banks than it is to rob 7 billion people individually.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I've just recently deleted my Facebook. Whether that's a good idea or not, I don't know.
I'm glad.
Great idea. Good idea.
I deleted mine as well. We should start a club with people who've deleted their Facebook accounts.
Yes.
Yeah, it's a hard job at first, but I mean, there are 6,500 people on there. But the way that people are going to find me is if you Google me. Or you find me on another platform. But I'm slowly moving away from legacy platforms and onto BSV platforms. Yeah, it is. And it is, I mean, I've said this quite a lot. It's a psychological process of being able to decouple yourself from this little mental prison that you've put yourself in by being in their platforms.
Yes, it's a painful process. And yet going through that pain means that once you are finished with this transformation, you will own it, though. You will own the connections that you have with people. You will use platforms that don't force others to use the same platform that you use any longer. If I send someone a message on Facebook Messenger, I'm inherently forcing them to use that same platform if they want to read my message. That is a statement that I am making towards that person, whether I even know it or not, and whether I acknowledge it or not. And through email, when I send someone an email, I'm not forcing anybody to use the same systems that I use, because email addresses can be at a different domain. And you can use a different email client. You can use Outlook, you can use Apple Mail, you can use Mozilla Thunderbird for all those open source people out there. You can use a lot of different email clients. You can use a lot of different web browsers too. And we need more of that. We need that for social media. We need that for listening to music. We need that for any number of applications that you want to use. Google Docs replaced Microsoft Word, but Microsoft Word used a specific file format that could be plugged into LibreOffice and other Office word processing software. So moving back in that direction, while still maintaining the ability to connect with users and monetize things with micropayments, while preserving privacy and owning your identity, that's the future. That's the metanet. That's what I think anyways.
So explain for me, how is your suite of tools going to help me then? I've just come off Facebook, I've got a website. So, and I'm not the most technical of people, I'll admit that. So, how is it going to help me?
My suite of tools may not help you. My suite of tools is designed for developers. So developers create these applications. We need to create entirely new classes of applications that have this architecture, this distributed architecture where the user is at the center. Protocols that facilitate the operation of the application are open and can be used by other applications. And the application monetizes itself through micropayments rather than through data mining and advertising. So developers can very easily use our suite of tools to create applications. There are tutorials and developer-focused documentation on our website, because if we can convince the developers to create these kind of applications, I see no doubt that users will see fit to use them, because users want identity ownership. Users want the ability to interact using open protocols and not force each other into using the same systems that they prefer to use.
And we've even created applications to exemplify to developers how they might build an app that uses this technology.
Can I share my screen and you can maybe show us a bit?
So talk us through this then.
So these are some use cases that we have for our technology. And if you go to the apps section at the top, you'll see a list of apps that are on this website. And these are apps that we have created, as well as we want to see other apps from other developers. So if you're a developer and you build something with our technology, definitely let us know, and we'll promote your app right on our website. And we'll let all the users of the MetaNet know, use our software at least, that you exist and that you've got some apps. So go to the to-do list, for example. We built a to-do list app, and this app essentially will be running on the computer, and you can see it here. So you have a MetaNet client on your computer already. You've installed it and it's running. So that means that you have the ability to use MetaNet apps. If you close out of your MetaNet client entirely, including from your system tray, and then refresh this page, we'll see what it looks like for a new user who hasn't actually installed the MetaNet client on their computer yet.
Should I deny or grant or just close this?
Oh, go ahead and just close it for now. That's fine.
Okay. And I just want to quit Babbage Desktop.
Yep, that's fine.
And then
go ahead and refresh that page.
Yeah. Okay.
And now it's asking you to install the MetaNet client onto your computer, but you already have it. So for users that don't have it, they would install it. And you're already set up here, so you can just open your MetaNet client up and see how the app responds. So the instant you launch it here, the app opens because it connects to the MetaNet client that you have on your computer. So we want every user in the world to have a MetaNet client on their computer. And now are you seeing, can you bring the MetaNet client into view? Okay, so now you have the MetaNet client open and you have this app open. And so if you want to add, for example, a list item to the to-do list, you can do so by going to the plus on the bottom right. And so you're actually going to be creating a Bitcoin token as you add an item to the to-do list.
This is actually the wrong screen, isn't it? This is my Babbage desktop that it's showing me at the minute.
If you click on the bottom right of your screen, the plus icon, the purple one, it should bring you back to that screen.
Oh, sorry. Okay, I get you. I was looking at the wrong screen. Right. Okay, yeah.
No worries.
So there's that, and then you can type in an example of a list item task that you might want to complete on your to-do list.
Pick up groceries or something.
Oh, I was going to say finish artwork. It's always work.
Yeah.
Okay. And then you see that amount at the bottom. That amount is a number of Satoshis that is associated with this task. So when you put this task forward, it's going to cost you that amount of Satoshis out of your account, and then you'll get them back when you're done. So Satoshis are the smallest unit of BSV. There's like 100 million of them for one BSV. So you could put 1,000 of them down like you have there, and you can just go to OK.
I don't think I've got anything in my wallet, though. So.
It does give you some money at the besigning. So when you sign up for your Project Babbage MetaNet client at the beginning, you get some money for free.
Free money. Everybody hear that? Free money.
Sign up for Babbage and get some free BSV.
Yeah, so now you can click on the Babbage on your taskbar there at the bottom, and it'll pop up, hopefully, and ask you whether you're okay with it.
Now we say grant, yes.
Yep, so you can say grant. It's going to just ask you, because it's asking you whether you want to allow these things with your data. Now it's going to ask you whether it's okay to spend some Satoshis that you have in your account to actually create this Bitcoin token that represents this to-do list task. So you can go to allow. And there you have it. You have a new list item on your task. And you may be able to zoom in your web browser. If you go to like Control Plus in your, there you are. Good. Right. Now we can see that the to-do list item is here. And now suppose you've actually completed it. You can go ahead and check the little checkbox. And you can then acknowledge that if you want to bring the Satoshis back into your account.
So this is really incentivizing you to actually remember to do your tasks, because if you spend all of your Satoshis on your to-do list, you need to do that to-do list to get your Satoshis back, basically.
Right. I mean, you could check them. It's a very basic example. I don't actually foresee this as being like the killer app of the MetaNet, but it does demonstrate for developers how they can actually use the MetaNet to create applications that support Bitcoin tokens, allow the use of micropayments, and then that task that you created, it was encrypted with a key that only you have, and you owned that key, meaning that nobody can see, even though it was on chain, it was part of a token. It was private, so only you could see it. So if you go back to your MetaNet client again, and
where would that be?
You want to go to the task.
Oh, did it go away? It disappeared from the taskbar.
I said I'd done it.
Okay.
Oh, the system tray, maybe? You could just hit open, right?
Right.
Okay. Yeah.
Now you can, does it show the list of, right. So if you click on the refresh button on the top right of the MetaNet client there, your actions, and it says refresh on the,
yeah.
Right. It should give you now.
That's the list, yeah.
So the amounts are, if you click on, there's a bit of a problem with this right now. If you go to settings and then go back, so you see on the left it says settings. Just click settings, click back to actions. Now the amounts are correct. So what happens was first it costs you this amount, and then you get it back minus the fees, what you put into your to-do list. So you created a task, and then you actually completed a task. And so that was 2 Bitcoin transactions, one of which created an output in the blockchain, and then the other one actually spent that output and brought those Satoshis back into your balance, of course, minus the transaction fees and things of that nature.
So your actions are essentially transactions a lot of the time.
Yes, they're always transactions.
Yeah.
Every action you take on the MetaNet is a Bitcoin transaction that mutates the state of some token or some data that you have, and then updates it in some way, or sends it to somebody else, or grants or denies, certain permissions, things like that. And all of your actions across all of your applications will show up here. And somebody could even create a competing to-do list app if they wanted to, and plug into your same list of tasks. And that way, they could facilitate a better user experience or something like that, because it's all owned by you, and your client with your actions all stays on your computer.
Yeah, we dare you to make a better one.
Wow, yeah.
In fact, there's a developer tutorial. So if you're a developer watching this, there's a tutorial that you can use to create your own to-do list. So we walk you through step by step. Here's what you can do in order to create your own to-do list app from scratch. So we start with no Bitcoin or blockchain knowledge and no Bitcoin or blockchain tools inside of a skeleton app that has nothing. And then we go through and we slowly add all of the specific functionality that a developer would need to do in order to create a to-do list application and make it available to their users. So then you could build your own to-do list, and then you have your own app and you can do what you want with it. So showing developers how to create applications that work in this way will most certainly lead to, the creation of better applications with better incentives, with micropayments, and that facilitate, user privacy with this encryption functionality on the list item tasks here. And then even the ability to share certain tasks or items among users and then update them so that we have interactive multi-user applications, just like we have on the internet.
Wonderful. Is there another app I could browse to, or?
There are others. The Nano Store. Well, let's look at this list here. So there's some developer-focused tools on here, and then Convo unfortunately isn't working. I would say that if you go to the UTXO Ninja, what is that?
What's the difference between a ninja and a dojo? Obviously a dojo is where you go to be a ninja.
Yes. So a ninja is, is that?
Create a new private key.
So yes, this is a user interface for managing Bitcoin Bitcoin tokens for application developers. It's fairly early stage at this point, but the to-do list is one of the tutorials we've created for developers to show them how you can actually create applications using this system. And the Dojo and Ninja system is an advanced UTXO management framework that you can use to create Bitcoin transactions that contain any type of custom token. So not just one type of token like STAS or Sensible, but every type of token that uses the UTXO model of Bitcoin, where you have outputs and then inputs that you can spend. So
wow, seriously.
We created a system for managing these types of tokens. And so the Dojo and Ninja system is useful. You can run it. You can run your own Dojo and Ninja if you want. So a Ninja is like almost like a wallet or a manager that can create transactions, and it has the private key. And then the Dojo is the place where the Ninja stores all of its data, and it's online. So there's but the Dojo doesn't have the private key. The Dojo just manages the transaction outputs and can process new incoming transactions from other users. But that's the difference between them. So the Dojo is like the server and the client is like the Ninja. If that makes sense.
Yeah. So could you search through the Dojo for all of your Ninja transactions? Dan?
Yes. So the Dojo tracks and manages the transactions that were created by Ninja, but Dojo doesn't have the private key. Ninja signs the transactions and accepts them using its private key. And the Dojo tracks transactions. It also tracks specific types of Bitcoin tokens in things called output baskets. So there's baskets that contain certain types of tokens. You could have a basket for certain types or classes of STAS token or Sensible token or something like this. And there's also transaction labeling functionality so that you can group transactions together and you can find all the transactions with a given label. You can also find all the tokens that you have within a given basket, and you can group tokens together so you don't get them mixed up. You could have different funding sources from different places and then not actually pollute them together. I mean, with traditional wallets, you have all of your money in one balance, and then if you have certain UTXOs, certain outputs in Bitcoin that are in a certain place, and you create a transaction, you could inadvertently mix them together with other outputs. Whereas with a basket, you don't have to do that because you can keep everything separate and you can tag things individually.
Cool. So what about the Nano Store then? What's your vision for the Nano Store? What can we do there?
Nano Store is a system for creating and sharing multimedia content within applications. Nano Store is a protocol as well as a service we offer that complies with that protocol for creating content and uploading it to essentially storage providers who contract to make that data available over a length of time. For example, if I have a video and I want to make sure it remains available, I could go to 3 different NanoStore service providers, upload that video to each of them, and they each commit to hosting it for, say, 7 years in exchange for a small payment. And then for the next 7 years, there's 3 people that are contractually bound to make that video available. And then it's also allowing clients to access that video. So given the hash of the video, which is a unique fingerprint for that specific video, a client can pull down that video from one of the 3 servers and can verify that the video is what it should be based on its fingerprint and can then access it. So even if one of the providers goes down, there's still 2 more, and the client doesn't care about that. The client is just going to get the video from whoever can provide it. And so NanoStore is a system that allows for multimedia content within MetaNet applications without relying on a single host to make videos and other content available.
That's cool. So I'm assuming there then as well, there's some kind of split transactions so that you as the host will be able to make, some kind of revenue for actually every time that video or the audio is actually played. So you do a split transaction then. Yes,
that's certainly something that can be implemented on top of NanoStore. So NanoStore is a fairly low-level protocol that just uses the universal hash resolution protocol for resolving data. And then you can actually have encrypted data. So if somebody wants to have, for example, a song, then they could have that song on NanoStore and it's encrypted. And then they have a system for obtaining the encryption key for that song in exchange for payment, so that somebody can download the song from NanoStore, but then pay the artist directly, and then that artist could pay the service provider, or you could pay both. You could have a system that pays the artist and the storage provider for hosting that song.
This is where Michael comes into his being then, because being a digital artist and a print artist and like you say, I mean, organic farming and music, NanoStore is a perfect suite for you. And also I'm thinking there's plenty of things we could I need to learn, and I need to go through all the steps and stages of your site, and learn how to do this myself, because this sounds like a real big advantage for artists to be able to do this themselves and host it themselves, like on their own websites and things. So, right, Michael, talk to me. Go on.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not sure about organic farming, what I could do with NanoStore. There's other tools that we offer for that. That would facilitate micropayment.
Supply chain things.
Supply chain stuff like that. Yeah. But certainly with any digital assets that, anything a creator makes, like a song or a video, a book, a picture, any of that stuff, any of these silly NFTs or whatever. I mean, it's any of those things could be uploaded to the NanoStore.
But this suite will, like, for example, Women of BSV, I've got my own website. I could actually sit there, go through this, teach myself how to actually implement this on the back end of my own website with Bitcoin.
You certainly could, and then you'd have a way of uploading and monetizing your videos.
Yeah, phenomenal. This is phenomenal.
So there's certainly ways of doing that. The other thing that you might consider as a person who runs a website is Packet Pay. So Packet Pay is a system that allows for people to pay directly a web server for the provisioning of files and API responses, things like this. What this means is that you could have all your MP4 files of all of your videos on your web server, and then you could install Packet Pay in front of it, and then Packet Pay would just charge, whenever someone wants an MP4 of a video that you guys have shot in the past, they can just pay a small amount. Your server makes money, and then you move your money off of your server, and you have that money yourself, and that content is then provisioned for the person downloading it, so that they can use it inside of their they can either watch it, or if you've licensed it in this way, they could then use that as part of their own content, or whatever the case may be. So Packet Pay is a system for monetizing digital APIs, services, and any files that you want to offer for download, including ebooks. You could offer an ebook, and you just pay a small amount, and then you get to read the ebook. And it would certainly be possible to extend that further.
So it strikes me that this is like a framework that's all the kind of behind the scenes plumbing.
Exactly. Yes.
Of sorting things, storing things, connecting things.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Micropayment infrastructure.
Yeah. Quite complex, really, but hopefully not to the end user in the end. But
no, the internet is a very complicated system for developers. You have to deal with routing, you have to deal with DHCP, you have to deal with getting packets from place to place, TCP. There's congestion. There's tons of things that have to be considered. Fiber optic networks have their own unique set of challenges with making sure that light gets from a place to another place, and protocols that work at that level. And then there's all the wireless stuff with different modulation schemes, and it all just works for the end user because the technology layers on top of itself in a way that the complexity can be abstracted away. And as long as we can build things in a way that complexity can be abstracted away, then the end user just gets to see a to-do list, and they check the little checkbox, and they know how that works. But they don't understand how UTXO management works, or Benford's law with change output amount distribution across multiple output scripts, or address reuse, or input selection, or tokenization within baskets, or script templates, or any of these other types of problems that developers have to solve.
Right. As far as I'm concerned. Can just tell me, is this SPV compatible? How
yes.
Yeah.
We implement full SPV. We have verification.
Let's just explain what SPV is for anybody that doesn't know.
Okay, so SPV was originally described 15 years ago, but now almost in the Bitcoin. I'm going to start saying 15 years ago because it's almost October.
That's
15 years.
Yeah.
SPV was described almost 15 years ago in the Bitcoin white paper as a system by which people could verify the legitimacy of incoming Bitcoin transactions without the need to download the entire blockchain and use it on their home computer. Because if I had to download every IP packet ever sent on the entire internet in order to have an internet connection, then that wouldn't work. And so therefore, SPV, simplified payment verification, is a way for end users to verify the legitimacy of their own transactions without needing to verify everyone's everything ever. And that's the simple explanation. And the more complicated explanation is that it uses a bunch of things that haven't been standardized very well, such as the providing of Merkle proofs on input transactions to the actual payment that you're trying to exchange, and then the verification of the Bitcoin scripts that actually transfer the coins from those input transactions to the subject transaction that you're trying to send or receive, and then you have minor endorsements, and you check that a double spend hasn't occurred. And if it does, then you retain for evidence that you can prove that this person defrauded you. And I have a whole bunch of videos. I have one video in particular I'm thinking about that talks about SPV in a lot of detail for developers. But the long and short of it is that from the very start, Project Babbage has implemented SPV, and we are fully SPV compliant. We do all of the steps necessary to verify transactions. Also, Project Babbage as a company, as well as all the users inside Project Babbage, we do not run a full node. I have never run a full node in BSV, and I probably will never run a full node in BSV unless I become a miner, because I've built my software and my architecture in a way that does not require a full BSV node.
Well done. I mean, so essentially everybody can have a light client, a client that does only their transactions basically and nothing else.
Yes, and light client, the Bitcoin Association has done some great work on, and nChain has done some great work on creating some tools for a light client toolbox for BSV. I support those efforts. I think they're a step in the right direction. I think we might be a step ahead, but I don't know. We've got some things that facilitate, I would say, stronger guarantees for SPV, but there are certainly some benefits to using SPV in any capacity that you can, whether it's using the light client, using the Babbage set of tools, and yes, Babbage does provide. We do provide software that, enterprise people should contact us, because we'll help you deploy certain things. Like, we have an internal system called ChainTracks that deals with SPV tracking block headers and verifies transaction envelopes, etc. But at the end of the day, yes, for end users retain their own histories of transactions, only their own transactions, the ones that are relevant to them, the ones that mutate the state of tokens that they care about, and nothing else, because that's peer-to-peer, right? When I want to let somebody know about something, I let them know about it directly, or I use a transport that facilitates them knowing about it, whether it's an online server that acts as their agent that they've paid, or whether it's communicating directly, or in the future using something like IPv6 to exchange messages directly among users. We have message box architectures like PeerServe that we've created for facilitating direct communication between users and the exchange of tokens. We have demos for that. But yes, there's a lot of technologies that go on under the hood. At the end of the day, the users are in control, and the users create transactions and sign them. We don't have much to do with that. We just define the protocols, the software, and help out with developers looking to create applications using this architecture.
I'm so impressed, Ty. I'm almost speechless. I mean, What Craig was talking about the last 2 days, you've basically developed all of it. And the only bit that I think might be missing still, I'm sure you'll get round to it sooner or later, is creating templates, because he was getting people to go off into teams and talk about what they might need to add, for different use cases to your identity, and the sort of templates that people might want to create. So, maybe that's something for the next layer of developers to start making for you.
It would be good.
Identity templates for different use cases.
Well, that's exactly actually what we're talking about with Authright and the distributed identity certificates. So for those that aren't aware, Authright is a system for mutual authentication of two parties over a communications channel. So it allows me to come to know that you are who you say you are, and it allows you to come to know that I am who I say I am. And for us to exchange certificates or endorsements of certain identity attributes. And so how do we define a certificate? A certificate with a certificate type defines a template which contains a set of key value pairs which ascribe certain attributes to a user identity. So for example, there could be a driver's license template with first name, last name, date of birth, zip code, house number, street, all these different things. And notice I separated the address into multiple things. And the reason why is because you can selectively reveal only certain attributes to certain people. So maybe I have a library card, a driver's license, and a certificate that I got when I finished the BSV Academy developers course or something. And so I'm talking to, obviously when I'm talking to my librarian, I might want to show them my library card, but I wouldn't necessarily show them my developer course. But if I'm talking to the MetaNet ICU library, if they ran something like that, I don't know, not the ICU specifically, but like if there are people in BSV that ran like a library for people, you get access to it once you finish a certain course, then yes, I could show my library card, and I could show my driver's license, and I could show the certificate that I got when I completed a certain course on the BSV Academy, so that I can unlock that little section of the library. Yeah. And from my driver's license, I might not show all of my personal information, but at least now they know I'm a legitimate person who has been issued an ID document, even though I'm not revealing all the fields from that. So different templates can be created for different identity documents and different use cases. And then those templates can be used in whatever context is required by any number of different applications. So the MetaNet client manages identity certificates. And when applications request access to certificate data, then the user gets to pick which fields get granted and which ones get blanked out when that identity document is presented. And then
maybe for how long?
Yes, so you can revoke if you don't want to continue granting access to a particular application. You could say, well, after a certain amount of time, I'm no longer willing to, provide this information to this application any longer. And then the application is only authorized to access these fields within the course of verifying their legitimacy. And then after that, there's no reason for the information to continue being shared. And
of course, that will really help with GDPR, which we have over here in Europe, which is a sort of data protection laws and right to be forgotten and all of that.
Right. Yeah. So it's the user who's granting it. There's no data processor, like, it's a peer-to-peer system. So as the recipient of information, yes, you receive and process it, but you're obligated to delete it immediately within this protocol after you've completed your due diligence for, the establishment of a secure communications channel. That's what Authright does. It facilitates users talking directly to one another, or users talking to applications or web servers, and run by businesses. And then those businesses and users can exchange identity information and can come to trust one another. So, for example, I might say that I would only trust Ruth if Ruth can obtain a certificate from Michael, who has endorsed Ruth in a certain context. And then Ruth would have to present me this identity certificate that I check is actually signed by Michael, who I trust. But But then Vinny might actually have
or something.
a different set of requirements.
Yeah. So like to attest to somebody's abilities and skills or whatever, like on LinkedIn.
Yes, you can have
like
skill attestation.
On LinkedIn,
and it's similar to that, only it's much more extensible because it can be used in different contexts, and it's open and it's held by the user, and you don't have to have a LinkedIn account.
Right.
Sweet.
So it travels with you rather than, this is such a big deal nowadays. The internet's so captured, and anybody trying to make a living on the internet is having to use these big monolithic corporations. They keep all of your sales leads that you ever get.
Right.
And
they charge you for it.
You can be crushed at any moment, sort of almost randomly, it seems, or deplatformed anyway.
Right. I mean, the full form of computing is where people actually are at the center, and where the data is with people, and then all the systems have to interoperate with the data that people have. And that's how the plan was originally going until it was captured by large walled garden platforms and data silos and identity silos and network silos, where you can't even leave without destroying the network you've built and all the friends that the friendships even sometimes that you have, because now there's no way for you guys to communicate. So you just lose touch, right? I mean, when I deleted my Facebook account, I lost touch with so many people, but for me, it was worth it. And that's a decision that, it wasn't easy, but
it's emotional. I agree.
It really is. It's difficult. I mean, but I want to be the one to own the ability that I have to connect with people. I don't want Facebook to own that.
Right. No, I agree.
And I hope some of my closest friends have understood, and I think they have, but
Well, my brother only ever gets in touch with me on Facebook, and my husband as well. And I refuse to install Messenger on my phone. So if I'm out and about, they can't contact me.
Right.
Good for you.
I mean, it's
ring my number.
Difficult. But
call me.
But it's just stupid things like that, isn't it? That kind of, interrupts people's everyday that we just accept that we shouldn't be accepting. Yeah.
Right. I mean, putting people at the center means allowing them to own the data that they create, as well as the methods by which they communicate.
Yeah, no, completely. I mean, because things have changed so drastically, like you say, over the last 15 years, really, where you've been forced into this. People are messaging people on within internal apps instead of actually having a physical conversation with people. So what kind of challenges have you faced when it's come to sort of, making these ideas a reality?
Obviously, there's been a lot of work from a development perspective on building out the tools and infrastructure and designing the incentives to make this what it needs to be. But really, I would say the main challenge is convincing people that at the end of the day, their data and their identity and their lives, almost in some capacity, their digital lives are important enough that they need to care about these things, right? I mean, there was a conversation that I had earlier this morning where we were talking about the tortilla challenge on TikTok. And basically this thing on TikTok is going around where people slap each other in the face with tortillas for entertainment value. And that's what happens when people don't care about the incentives, because they make millions of dollars slapping each other in the face with tortillas, while people that actually are creating true value are struggling and can't hardly make ends meet. Mm-hmm. And when people are more conscious of the incentives that underpin these platforms, then you're going to be able to make better decisions about who you want to support and the kind of people that you want to make money and the kind of people who you could care less about. And I'm sorry for the people that enjoy slapping each other in the face with tortillas, but I would much rather support somebody who spent a lot of time creating something intellectually stimulating, right? Like maybe they wrote a paper, or maybe they gave a presentation. There was a great presentation I watched called What Technology Wants, or What Does Technology Want, or something like that. It was last night. And that type of video takes a long time to put together. It doesn't take 15 seconds to watch, but it does take a long time to put together, and you can get a lot out of it. And I think that when people make less money from that kind of video than for watching someone slap each other in the face with tortillas for 15 seconds on TikTok or something, there's some incentives that are misaligned, and we need a realignment of these incentives, and that can be done through micropayments, and it can be done through allowing people to own their identities. And so the challenge that I face is convincing you that you should not watch somebody slap somebody else in the face with a tortilla.
Maybe not, Ty. But the thing is, I mean, these technologies are going to facilitate a way for us to, it's going to facilitate competition. People are going to release content, right?
Yeah.
And their content is going to be either more or less popular. It's going to be, and we might get 5 years into this, 10 years into this, find out that slapping people in the face with tortillas is actually some of the best content.
I get it. It's entertaining. Sure.
We might find that out. I don't know.
I hope that's not what we find out. But,
I hope it's not, because I don't know.
There's more valuable uses of our time. Like, yes, I mean, maybe that person makes a small amount of money, but watching 15 seconds of a 30-minute video and then tuning out after you've watched the ad, right? I mean, I don't know. There's just a lot of weird, shaky incentive structures that have to be thought about very closely when you deal with that type of thing. And
when you think about it, it's a very small percentage of people that are actually making any money whatsoever on these platforms, to be honest. So it is a kind of attention. It's an attention grabber.
Yes.
It's like the clickbait headlines that you get on YouTube. It's literally an attention grabber. But when you look at the stats and you look at all your analytics and you think, okay, so people are only actually watching so many minutes, or they're just watching so many seconds of a particular video, then that's all they're doing. They're just grabbing attention for 15 seconds and it's gone after that. They're going to remember it, but they're not going to probably, I don't know. I mean, are you going to remember the tortilla slap in the face in 30 years time? Is it going to be that much of an important part of your life that it's going to be, it's one of those things, isn't it? It's a small attention grab. But as I said, there's not as many people as what you think are making money on these platforms.
Right.
No. Yeah.
No, and people are more considerate. People are more considerate of, I would say, what they're watching when they have to pay a little bit. I mean, I don't know if that's true, but I think that's a conjecture that I have. But I would like to think that, paying for something versus getting it for free might make me reflect, do I really want to watch this, or would I rather give my money to somebody who is going to say something more useful to me, I guess. I don't know.
I mean,
or more entertaining.
Or more entertaining. Yeah. I mean, sure, if that's what I'm going for.
That's what they're after.
But it's true. I mean, if you even if you buy a video off YouTube, you just purchase a video, you get 31 days to actually watch that video. Well, the fact that you might only be a small amount, again, it might only be £4, but because you've actually paid that, I'm going to sit and watch it within those 31 days. I'm not going to let that slip by in any way whatsoever. Yeah, so completely right. Yeah.
Gosh, so what do people need to know if they want to start using your protocols then? I mean, do they just come to your site and start reading, or is there anything?
Read the docs.
Specific?
Developers need to read the documentation that we have produced. I know that developers don't like reading documentation. Trust me, when I wrote it, it took a long time and it was painful because it took so long to write all of these things down. But they needed to be written down, and these systems can be understood because I've written these things out and because of the videos that we've produced. So if you're not going to go read the docs, you can watch the videos that I've produced on YouTube, and I will continue to produce more until we create an alternative to YouTube. You should also join the chat system. So we have a chat system at chat.projectbabbage.com, and that's a place where developers can go to ask questions and even promote the projects that they have created using MetaNet technologies. So we have a number of tools and resources on the website, of course. So there's Authorite for distributed identity and authentication. There's the MetaNet client, which users should install on their systems so they can participate in the MetaNet and use MetaNet-powered apps that are created by developers. There are a lot of tools for developers, such as the Babbage SDK, as well as Nano Store and Packet Pay. Packet Pay is a big one. It's a new one. It's really, really simple. You should look at Packet Pay for monetizing your APIs, because you can actually make money, and you can change the way that your incentive structure is on your website, or if you're selling books, or if you're selling t-shirts or something like that. You can pay directly with BSV. You can do all of these things in better ways using micropayments, and you can protect the privacy of your users. And so my words to developers are, you should be aware of the incentives that underpin your application. Yes, you can make money by grabbing user attention with ads and monetizing your platform. Well, you're not grabbing users' attention with ads, you're degrading their experience with ads, but you can advertise your platform, and that's fine. But users I think want platforms that put the user at the center, and that make it so that they don't have to use the same platform as the people they communicate with. And it's nice that we have that with email and with the web, and I'm grateful that we still use those two technologies. I'd like to see more use of distributed technologies, and I think that if you as a developer want to create an application on top of BSV, it would certainly benefit you to look at our technologies, because we will reduce your time to market by 10 times. You do not need to reinvent the wheel. You do not need to build a Bitcoin wallet. When you're building a Bitcoin wallet that doesn't work with existing systems, you're creating another system that is going to make it even more difficult down the road. But if you use a system that fulfills your needs and actually does things properly, and if you look at our systems, I'm confident that it does, you can focus on building your application. You can focus on building the idea that you've always had, that you thought was not possible because the technology wasn't there yet, or the infrastructure wasn't there yet. We are that infrastructure, and we're going to provide the tools and resources and make it as easy as we can for developers to create applications on top of BSV and on top of the metanet, because that's what I started this company to do, and that's what I will continue to do until there are a multitude of applications and millions of users on the platform.
So you get any advice for me then, because I want to try and get some more training sessions to educate more people out there. So not just specifically on the internet, but maybe we could, I don't know, as Women of BSV, maybe we can reach out to educational facilities. So what advice would you give for me and for Women of BSV for wanting to reach out to people? What's the key idea?
Focus on the benefits for them. I mean, why is this going to help? Why is this going to help, right? They say benefits over features when you market things, right? Yeah. Why is this important to certain people? I think that end users are motivated by at least certain end users. We can start here. We can build a small network with just this: digital privacy, identity ownership, data ownership, not being locked in. Creators want the ability to monetize and own with a platform that they control, so that they're not subject to the YouTube algorithm or whatever. They want to be able to monetize directly from their subscribers using micropayments, because that's how subscribers can convey that they actually like what they're seeing. I mean, the closest we've gotten to that is something like Nebula or Floatplane or something, where you have the ability to pay on a per month basis.
Patreon,
Patreon, of course, that's a big one. But really, the holy grail of connecting with your fan base as a creator is micropayments, because then you can get a lot of people. You don't need just 1,000 people in your core network, and maybe you want that. Maybe that's a useful thing to have. But in addition to that, all of those millions of people, that see you and that actually are influenced by your content. Maybe you make their day better. Maybe you make their life better. Maybe you show them something that they didn't know. Those people are the ones that you want to influence, and you can do that best if you use a micropayment platform, because those people can now directly compensate you for the value you have added to their life. Mm-hmm. And that's the message for creators. And then for developers have good ideas. They see the potential in this technology. They like to see it succeed. But the applications they're building are reinventing the wheel. They're trying to do all the infrastructure components. I started trying to build a chat application on BSV. I did successfully do it. It took me a year, but I did it. No one uses it because, we moved on to other things, and then we actually made our technology better. And so the chat application is going to be coming back online hopefully this year. And it'll be much better. That's called Convo. Yep. And then of course we have our developer chat system. So chat.projectbabbage.com. That's very much online, and you should join it because that's going to be a system where you can communicate with other MetaNet developers, and it's the go-to place for the ecosystem to develop this technology. There's meetings on there that you can attend every couple weeks where you can just chat with us and talk about projects. We'll give you updates. We'll tell you what we think. We'll give you feedback. We'll get users to check out your application. We'll, even you might be able to influence some of the priorities that we have internally for what you need built so that you can bring your use case to life on top of BSV. Yeah. So we're providing that network. But what I was saying earlier about chat systems and things, I built a chat system on BSV, but then I had to go through a whole bunch of requirements, and all these infrastructure pieces, they just weren't there, right? So as a developer, you start to try to build on BSV, and you try to create an application, and then you realize the infrastructure isn't present yet. You don't have all the tools that you need. You can't easily create tokens. You can't easily establish the identities of your users. You can't easily monetize with micropayments. So my message to developers building applications is, don't focus on that. Look to infrastructure that solves these problems and solves them in a way that doesn't require a central platform. Because there are certain pieces of infrastructure, such as Handcash, MoneyButton, RelayX, all great platforms, but they are a central piece of infrastructure that you have to run everything through in order to make things work. Look at platforms, not just my own, but seriously, look at other platforms that exist that facilitate direct peer-to-peer exchanges of information, identity ownership, and open protocols, so that you don't need to rely on someone like that in order to build your application, and then create something that's valuable on top of BSV, and your time to market when you use infrastructure that exists already will be 10 times less, because it will take you, our goal is to make it so that somebody can have an idea for a BSV app and go build it and make it a reality very quickly, rather than having to focus on all these things I've just talked about, distributed identity systems, content delivery using NanoStore or something like that, right? There needs to be protocols for that already. And we're the ones creating those protocols. So as application developers, look at the platforms that are available and then make a decision based on your use case and your needs. And I would just caution people, there are some really easy options out there that exist, but they may not serve you well in the long term if they use something like op return, because of the scalability implications. I have a video about describing scalable Bitcoin application architectures and op return. I recommend people watch that. And then if your platform that you're working on is having a central server where you have to plug everything into and use their specific API, and it's not openly defined, it's not peer-to-peer, there may be some difficulties there down the road as well. I mean, with downtime, things like that. I know that a lot of people built on MoneyButton, but then things changed, didn't they? Fabrique bought things, and I'm not going to speak ill of anybody in the space, but I think there are some people out there who maybe they're looking at other options aside from MoneyButton because the things changed, and that's the key. You have to ask yourself, this is the thing we learned. We should have learned this when BSV came out. Things change with the protocol. And when protocols change, such as the protocol by which your application interfaces with MoneyButton or Fabrique or those systems, then you have to re-architect your application. It causes you a lot of pain. So build using an architecture that's not going to change build using an architecture that's defined in a peer-to-peer manner so that you're not reliant on a central platform operator. And then you will truly own the application that you create, and your data will be owned by, well, your users will be the true owners of their data and their identities. And then micropayments will be a viable path for the future. But application developers have to really, really, really look at and consider these things, because we as an industry have to decide what it means to build on BSV and what applications get created. And that's actually internal to the BSV industry. We have to decide what applications get attention and funding and recognition for their achievements. And different kinds of applications have been created in different ways. And as time goes on, people are going to start to realize that maybe the run architecture wasn't the best idea. And maybe when you have an architecture that, so the constraint that I would put on the architecture is, if the cost of running the architecture, whether it's run or a peer-to-peer system that uses SPV directly or whatever else, if that cost depends on the total number of Bitcoin transactions ever, instead of the total number of Bitcoin transactions that you use yourself, then your architecture is not scalable. Because in the future, there's going to be trillions of Bitcoin transactions. You need to run things in a way where you yourself can validate the transactions that you care about, and where you don't need a node or an indexer or a scanner to validate everything else. And then you start to create a peer-to-peer architecture with protocols that are understood mutually, and then those protocols get set in stone and they don't change.
What you're saying is do it right to begin with, or else you'll have to do it again later.
You're going to redo it, and it's going to be much harder to redo it, and then all the data is going to be, on chain, so it'll be a little bit easier because of that. But so it is a step in the right direction, even if you're using these systems like Handcash or Money Button or these things. But it's still going to be difficult if the architecture for tokens is not using UTXOs, or if your protocols aren't peer-to-peer, or if you rely on an indexing system or a wallet that is running on a central server. If you do any of those things, if the interface between your application and a wallet is using a central server, then that's going to cause you grief down the road. I will mention that the Babbage interface, when you run an application, you talk to localhost, right? If you look at how the Babbage system runs inside of a web browser, you run your application and host it on your domain. And when you want to talk to a Babbage user, you talk to localhost, right? And that's for developers out there, that's 127.0.0.1, localhost, right? And that's where everything runs. You don't have to talk to secure.moneybutton.com. You don't have to talk to other systems. You just request the transactions that you want from the local host, and then the user facilitates that. And that MetaNet client on the user can be run by Babbage, but it can also be run by other people in the future. And that protocol, that system, that interface between the application and the client, that is open. And that is a standard that anybody can fulfill. Anybody can write a MetaNet client that meets those requirements and that implements that standard. And that's how you build scalable applications on top of open protocols in a peer-to-peer way on BSV.
So big companies need to listen to that, right? Because
well, of course. I mean,
they can pick this up and develop it themselves, right?
Yes, right. I mean there's big companies out there, I mean, I think that CAH is doing some good things with his leadership of Nchain and BA and like, people should like write standards for this stuff, like the TSC, like that's a useful thing. We should talk about this. Let's have a conversation. Can we jump on a call? So I don't know, like there's people around the industry that could decide this is the interface between a Bitcoin application and a MetaNet client that runs on a user device. And if we all agree on that interface, then all of the applications on Handcash and everywhere else, they could all plug in to whether it's the Handcash the Handcash MetaNet client, or whether it's the Babbage MetaNet client. Just let's agree on the interface. Let's agree on the mechanism by which we can encrypt data and create digital signatures. Let's agree on the mechanism by which we can consume Bitcoin transaction inputs from certain places and then create outputs. Let's agree on the interface by which we can put certain tokens into baskets and use custom output scripts of any kind within a Bitcoin transaction. We need to agree on all of these interfaces, because if we do that properly, then the next generation of apps and services is not going to rely on a central platform. It's going to rely on an open protocol that anybody can use. And that's the power that we have as an industry if we can get together and decide on those things.
We have the option to move forward, and that's pretty cool.
Right. I mean, then we don't have to focus on these problems anymore. We can focus on building great applications and actually making it that much easier, you know, getting that 10 times faster time to market for the next generation of killer applications, and getting the adoption that this industry has needed for so long so that the MetaNet can actually succeed, and so that people can start to benefit from all these things we've talked about: data ownership, micropayments, distributed identity. All of these things, we can really, really get these things going, but only if applications get built in the way that the MetaNet would actually enable, right? And we need standards for that. So
I've got a question for you, Ty. Are you going to be at London Blockchain Conference, May the 31st, 1st of June, 2nd of June?
Ooh, what a question. You think we should go to that, Mike? Yeah, let's go.
I think you should go to that, and I think you should tell everybody on stage, this is what we need to do.
Yeah, I'll be there. You can come and talk to me. I may not recognize you. Just walk up, introduce yourself, and I'll talk to you about whatever.
Yeah, the blue hair in Diddy's case is at least fairly.
Yeah, that makes it
easy to spot.
We'll have a group there, I'm sure, for Babbage. I don't know if we can afford the T-shirts and whatever like everyone else, but I'm sure we'll find our way over there.
Let me just ask you another quick question. Are you inviting investment?
Sure. Come talk to us.
Yeah.
Why not? I don't know. Like, if you want to talk to us, let's have a chat. I don't know. Like,
because I think this is way too important not to be.
I don't know.
Hopped on immediately.
I went to this random domain on the internet called unboundedcapital.com, and apparently they invest in micropayment infrastructure or something. I don't know. Never talked to the people, but like, I don't know. There's some other people out there too that I'm sure have certain things. So yeah, like, you know, it would be good to chat with some people, and I don't know. We're not gonna, you know. There's open protocols that we want to make sure are open, and then beyond that, maybe we can start to build some of these things out.
As long as they adhere to your policy of keeping it all open.
Well, there are certain components that we have as proprietary, but the protocols, the interfaces, the connection between these systems is defined in such a way that anybody can create their own, and we're not going to let go of that.
Yeah.
Great. That's wonderful. Well, I would say the blockchain conference is probably a pretty high density of billionaires in one room. Yeah, so
that's cool.
Let's hope they're paying attention.
I'll have to drop by that way if I really do hope I'm there in London. I don't have any I haven't booked the tickets or anything yet, but I do plan to be there. Yeah. So provided we, you know, we'll find something.
All things being equal, yeah.
Yeah.
Good. Glad to hear it. Well, I mean, this has slightly blown my mind. That's
the goal, isn't it?
It's like I've listened to 2 days of Craig talking about exactly this. Like, and if you haven't listened to it, you should go back, because he's talking about you and what you're doing, and you know, exactly to a T. So,
I have the code. If he wants the code, he can talk to me, and we can incorporate that so that he's teaching people actual tools, and actually how to use specific tools to achieve specific things, rather than just saying, well, in theory, one could have X, Y, Z. You know, like, that's great, but how about having labs in addition? So you have the lectures, and then you have a lab, and it's like, well, here's a hands-on where we're going to actually all open up our code editors together, and we're going to build a to-do list application that uses tokenization and implements micropayments and encryption to protect privacy, and creates a spendable output in Bitcoin, and then redeems that and brings it back to the user and uses a MetaNet client. I mean, let's talk about that. That would be a useful thing to teach people, right? Like
absolutely. And maybe while
like
you're over at the end of May, beginning of June, perhaps you should have a workshop at the conference, maybe.
I would like to do that. Nice. I mean, I have no idea how I'm going to pay for that, but I would like to do that. That would be really fun. Yeah. I mean, we're spending all of our money on actually like just running as fast as we can and creating a bunch of documentation and videos and resources and more code for more things and tokenization schemes.
Sometimes you just got to get in the right room with the right person.
Yes, I agree with that. And that's useful. I mean, we're going to run as fast as we can in the direction that I've set out. And I think everybody now knows what that is. So if there's any doubt about what I'm going to be doing over the next year, I hope that's all cleared up now. But, we're going to hopefully be there and hopefully not run out of, it'll be nice to sort of listen to what everybody has to say in London and maybe talk to some good people too. I don't know. Open to networking, open to talking with anybody in the industry. Let's build some standards for some things and let's actually move beyond these problems we've been talking about for 15 years and start taking things to the next level and making this layer of technology.
We just need the implementation, and that's right. What you've been working
on. Craig built the theory and he had theory of Bitcoin and I have practice of Bitcoin. How is that? Maybe we should make a title called Practice of Bitcoin. I don't know. There's a bunch of stuff out there, but I'm really happy. I just want to say, I'm really happy to see all the projects start to come to fruition that have been for a long time. And, sometimes you hire a bunch of engineers and they can't build anything because you got too many engineers in the room and you don't got enough marketing people or you don't got enough whatever. And and then you try to move on to something else. But there's been a lot of people who have done amazing work and just research. I mean, we're starting to figure out which companies out there have been keeping their nose to the grindstone and which ones need to pivot and need to move on to other things. I was very surprised to read the article about Run was selling and whatever, but people learn, the industry learns and we get smarter and we're going to build this layer of technology. And once this layer is here, we need to recognize it and then we need to standardize it and then it needs to not change. And then we need to start building on top of it. And that's what my proposal is. I have systems. There's others that have systems. Let's make a standard. Let's agree not to change it. And then let's let people build on top and let's build the next generation of applications because that's what's going to get us the recognition and the success that we need.
Well, Ty, this has been phenomenal. Thank you so much for joining us. Michael, have you got any closing words that you want or words of wisdom to impart in us?
Help starving artists like me. Usher in a new age of a new and more fair age of monetization for content and valuable information because we need it.
Yeah, it's time.
It's past time. I mean, look up error code 402.
Yeah.
Yes.
Look at 402. It's time.
Yeah.
I mean, they've been waiting a long time for that one.
Payment expected error.
Yeah. There you are. Yep. You know it. Congratulations. I knew it was time. Somebody knows it. Good. We need more people to know
it. Thank you so much, guys. It's been absolutely phenomenal.
Yeah, it's such a pleasure to have you on.
Yeah,
it's so inspirational and just getting out there and doing it. I love it.
Yeah, and there's so much passion behind what you're saying as well, Ty. I can see that this is coming from the heart. This is you spent so much time doing it, and this is life. This is
it's important. I'm so tired from building so much, and we've been writing a bunch of code, but I'm also exhilarated because the next generation of people, we're going to pass over to them and give them this platform and the things that they're going to be able to do. I can't even imagine what people are going to be able to do on top of this. We have a lot of stuff, and we talk about these products and solutions and tools and frameworks and protocols and standards and specifications and whatever else. And at the end of the day, what it comes down to is this is who we are, this is what we built, this is what we believe, and now you're the next generation, and you're going to have to go do something with it. So there you go.
Yeah.
Congratulations. Now you get to
now
do
run with
right?
it.
So that's what I have to say, and that's what I built, and I'm happy to have people check it out and give me feedback and talk about the future, because the future is why we're here. I think it's what we should aim towards.
Absolutely.
We should figure out what kind of future we want.
And a huge thank you to the Women of BSV for giving us this platform to speak.
Yes, absolutely. Like, really, this is amazing. I love everything that you guys have done. I watch, as much of your content as I can, and I watch as much content from everybody as I can, and I see you guys come out with a new thing, and it's it's a lot of devotion to stick by and keep at it. Everybody in this space has been starving for success and for getting the word out about things for so long, and just keep at it. Keep building whatever you're working on if you truly believe in it. And if you don't, then you should go and do something else, so that you're actually doing something that makes you feel happy and valuable, right? And valuable, and have the dignity of doing something that you care about. And people need to keep doing that. And if they do, then there's nothing that cannot be built on top of BSV that people want. And I would just say thank you guys for doing your part in making this happen, and providing this platform so we can speak to to these people, and to you guys as well. Like, you guys are phenomenal, and you've provided a lot of
thank you so much for saying all that. It's really kind of you. We're trying to do our bit. I'm actually developing an app myself at the minute, so you've given me a lot of food for thought here, because I'm trying to evaluate which platform to build it on at the minute, and so I've got a lot more information now that I think I needed. And I'm going to go and take a deep dive into the Babbage project. God,
Babbage. Projectbabbage.com.
Yeah, those marketing, people.
It's super helpful, and it especially consolidates my last 2 days of listening to Craig Wright. It's good. Funny enough, it's like the cap on it. So that's really fantastic, and I am going to be on that tomorrow.
Awesome.